it's just, what do you say? What do you say? What do you do? Like, real regime change hasn't been tried yet. You don't understand. This time it's going to be good. This time it's going to be good. This time it's going to be good. It's not. It's not.
It's been summarized for him and that he understands it. Maduro then waived the public reading of the charges, says he will read them himself. The judge did then read him his rights. He acknowledged his counsel, Mr. Pollack. Then the judge read essentially his Miranda. And then Maduro said he did not know of these rights, but that he is now informed. And then Maduro went on to plead not guilty.
Wow. He says, I am still president of my country.
Right. And he says that for a number of reasons. I would imagine, number one, because that's the way he sees his situation. Number two, Manuel Noriega, the Panamanian dictator who was taken into custody in the Bush administration.
This is not a good comparison because Panama was under military control by Noriega, who was already a CIA asset. Okay? You already had an American military base. It's very different than a full-blown sovereign nation. Okay? And the president of a full-blown sovereign nation that has fought long and hard for its sovereignty.
And we heard from Bill Barr earlier today. He was the AG in charge of overseeing that at the Department of Justice at the time. But the head of state immunity issue is the one that he knows he can press, that he will try to use to defend himself, that I have immunity because I am the head of state. It did not work for Noriega in that trial back in Panama, and he was indicted on very similar drug charges, drug trafficking charges. The other thing that I would mention is, just in terms of venue, as Emily pointed out, it could have been anywhere. I think some people would have argued that Florida was a good venue for this particular case. It is in New York. It falls under the U.S. Attorney Jay Clayton and the Southern District of New York in this case, and they have a lot of experience with this, but it is unlikely to go to trial for a very long time. And one of the issues, it will have a very long process, is what I'm hearing from former federal officials. And so he is likely to sit in jail for quite some time.
That's a fascinating detail, how long he sits in jail. And that cartel of the Sons, De La Solis, you've got those members, you've got Tren de Aragua, you've got others. Those people are going to try to continue to do business. And that's just fresh intelligence on the ground for who will be there, the United States. And so it gets more complicated day by day, I would imagine. But that is such an interesting point of how long he'll sit there. I was trying to find his age, because that matters too, right? The longer he sits there, maybe that changes things for him.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's been in power for 17 years. And we can look up his age. I'm not exactly sure, but it is, he's not recognized. 50 countries do not recognize him as the legitimate leader of this country, including the EU. So this is we just heard about this from Michael Waltz at the United Nations. So this is there's a lot of consensus on this. Did you just discover?
Yeah, I found it, and maybe because I'm getting older, but 63 doesn't seem that old to me.
Yeah, I would put him around there. And he's a tall man with a big.
Well, apparently he was towering over his counsel.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Just want to point out too, his wife now has counsel as well. Texas Attorney Mark Donnelly filed motion to be admitted as counsel for Celia Adela Flores de Maduro. So I believe that there are something is happening with her right now, according to Paul's notes in the room. It appears we are getting a sense of a very defiant Maduro in this courtroom, insisting he has done nothing wrong repeatedly to the point where the judge...
Dude, it's awesome. We just make up fake charges. We just do a very open, broad daylight kidnapping operation. And we're like, well, in our domestic rules, we've decided, in our domestic laws, we've decided that you've done a crime. Sorry. And then everyone talks about it like there's any legitimacy here whatsoever. It's interesting. I think that attitude-wise, I'm noticing a shift here, at least in the way that like the American government is operating, where clearly the American government is saying like, nah, we don't really give a f about any of this stuff. Like, we just want the oil. We want to dominate Venezuela. Who gives a and yet both Fox News and also New York Times and everybody else is like trying to make it seem like there is any sort of legitimacy to any of the actions that were taken. If I'm not mistaken, you always wanted to move past liberal democratic values. No, I want the actual. You always wanted to move past liberal democratic values. Respecting the sovereignty of other countries is one of those liberal democracy values. What did you expect? No, brother. I want actual dignity and respect for other nations. Okay? That's the difference. Liberal democratic values is a fake patina that they slap onto it to do fascism the right way. Okay? By claiming process. By claiming that there's any sort of democratization initiative taking place. I first and foremost want people to have dignity, want people to live good lives. I want them to be rid of American imperialism. Okay? My argument against the liberal international order is that they utilize process and paperwork and make it seem as though there is a standard here that they're applying, when in fact, there is no real standard when America decides to do whatever the wants. Do you understand? Good point by chatter above. This would only be legitimate in a UN court or ICC, not a domestic American trial. He's not an American citizen. He has not done a crime in America. If he's done an international crime, should be an international court of The Hague. No, the argument that they're making, that's why they're using drug trafficking as a charge. They're saying that, like, if there's a criminal that is, like, you know, actually trafficking drugs in the United States, like okay, I'll give you an example. Okay, I'll give you an example. The Honduran president, which Donald Trump recently pardoned, okay? That is a former head of the state, okay? And during during his tenure, he participated in cocaine trafficking into the United States of America. His name is Juan Orlando Hernandez, and he actually did that shit, right? And then there was an active court case. There was an investigation. They found him guilty, right? And he went to prison. And then Trump pardoned him. In that situation, there is like valid reason, valid suspicion, a real investigation that took place. And then last but not least, he wasn't even, if I'm not mistaken, he wasn't even fucking captured as the president. Like, that dude was literally doing the narco trafficking, right? So there is a validity to you know, arresting and apprehending foreign nationals if they are genuinely found to be guilty of you know, harming American citizens. Like, I mean, that's the same principle behind like Osama bin Laden, right? Like, Honduras extradited him, right? We did the proper protocols in that situation. Okay, this is not the appropriate. This is not anything. We just made up. We just decided we can just make up a crime. Okay, we decided that we could just make up a crime, kidnap this dude. Okay, bomb the out of its capital, kidnap him, and then make it seem like there's any sort of real legal process taking place here. And what a lot of people don't realize is that this completely violates the sovereignty of every country in Latin America. And it's actually, that's the reason why they're doing it, right? If you don't play ball with us, we come into your country, we say, hey, you have to have, you know, Chevron dominate your country. You have to have Walmarts in every corner. We will enslave your population to work in Amazon distribution facilities, right? Right? We don't want to use China anymore. We want to use Mexicans. And if you say, no, I don't want to do that. I don't want to enslave my population. That's insane. We go, oh, well, you're a narco trafficking hub. Turns out, sorry. Now you have to be lasered. We'll abduct you in the middle of the night and we'll ship your ass to the Southern District of New York, where we'll throw on like a sham trial. And whoever we install in your place will play ball. That's it. That's what America is doing. And it's not like they're hiding that they're doing that. They're just straight up saying it, which is why I find this extra strange. Like, unless you are a straight up die-in-the-wool hog, okay? Unless you are a straight up dumb Republican. And if you are a dumb Republican, I can explain to you how none of this stuff actually benefits you either, from a totally selfish perspective too. But unless you're like a dumb Republican, how the hell do you look at the situation and go, well, at least the Venezuelans are celebrating or whatever? You know what I mean? Like, do you not realize that this is exactly what happened? You're supposed to be a little bit smarter than this, right? Like, at least liberals are supposed to be a little bit smarter than hogs. But I think like American imperialism is so calcified in the collective consciousness of Americans that they just cannot even remotely think of anything but like America's kind of still doing the right thing, even when they're doing it the wrong way. No, they're not. They're not doing the right thing at all. They're doing the wrong thing. And they're doing it the wrong way.
Has had to stop him from talking.
Yeah, and he is, he said, well, we could talk about the 4 counts and the fact that you want to, say that you're not guilty to all 4, but we're not doing it today. I want to bring in Carrie Urban.
Yes, explain how it's good or bad from a selfish standpoint. I already did earlier, but I'll repeat it once again. The Iraq War was not good for anyone. It was not good for the soldiers that were there. It was certainly not good for the Iraqi civilians that were slaughtered ruthlessly. It was not good for the power vacuum that created in the aftermath of Saddam being taken out. We destroyed and destabilized this massive country. And it was good for a couple people, though. It was good for Dick Cheney. It was good for Halliburton that got fat contracts, which Dick Cheney was literally the president of Halliburton and or the CEO of Halliburton before he became the vice president. It was good for all of the oil companies, right? Because then they got to extract the previously nationalized Iraqi oil fields, right? And it was good for, I guess, like young upstarts in ISIS that were presented as like the connective tissue between Iraq and 9/11 somehow. So it was good for them. They got a lot of play. They got a lot of play off of this. It was good for Blackwater, right? Which had a steady flow of new veterans that they could just hire that were looking to get back into the action. It was good for Israel that got to topple and destabilize a regional actor that, could potentially invite harm or keep Israel in check. But it wasn't good for the average American, right? And I think a lot of people understand that. That's partially why I compare this to like China, who at the same time, while America was engaging in this like endless military adventures all around the world and doing American imperialism, China was focusing on development. And that's precisely the reason why they were able to improve the material conditions of the average Chinese citizen over the same time frame. Okay? That's it. Because none of this stuff is good for you. It's not good for you at all. You might think it's good for you. You're like, well, at least the price of oil is low. It's like, okay, well, keeps increasing, right? And it seems like everything else is not pegged to the dollar, the oil, or the price of an oil barrel anymore. Anyway, with all the corporate consolidation that has taken place, it wasn't good for anybody. It wasn't good for the people who were celebrating the toppling of Saddam in Iraq. And it certainly wasn't good for the average American either. This is precisely why the platitude of war is pointless and supposed anti-war movies like Garland's Warfare is so soulless. They strip the war of the context and pretend it's enlightened. Whereas war is immensely beneficial for a small group of people and ignoring the context hides that. Yes, war is always good. And wars are not meant to be won. Wars are just meant to continue in the backdrop. Okay? And that's precisely what has happened with American war. There are always people making money in a war. It's just you're not making any of that money. And also, before people say, okay, if we had like some kind of real military Keynesianism, or if we had like real robust social democracy, would that justify all endless extraction of natural resources from around the globe? No, I'm just saying that we don't even dignify the American labor aristocracy with the benefits of the imperial super profits. So if you are a selfish American who thinks you are going to benefit from this, at least for the time being, I'm going to tell you right now, you're not benefiting. But that's a second conversation that must take place later down the line, even if we get there, right? What is this? From a locked friend. I know I keep stating various variations of this take, but so far the only people Trump bombed who dug in and committed to a protracted fight on Allah won for all intents and purposes. He's obsessed with kicking in rotten doors, but the minute he meets real resistance, he bails. Oh, it's true. True. That's also true. You have to fight back. If might makes right, then the only way you can survive is by making it as costly as possible. Right? That's it. That's it.
Again, we have a team of people who are watching this for us, legal experts, and we also have Paul Morrow, who is a legal expert as well, former NYPD, and has been inside that courtroom many times. He's at the courthouse. So, Carrie Urban, I want to go to you now about the defiance that we are hearing reported inside the courtroom. And was that anticipated? Does that matter?
Interesting take, Hassan. It's not an interesting take at all. It's just objective reality. With respect to what took place between Iran and Israel, they didn't stop because they came to their senses, or they didn't stop because they became woke. They stopped because Iran was depleting the out of their defense systems. That's it. Interesting take, Hassan. Not what I heard last week. Yeah. Wait, what? This has been my perspective and something that I have described over and over again for especially the last 2 years. This is not even like bias framing or anything. This is just a analysis over objective reality. I'm not giving you like a unique take here. It is difficult. It is difficult to achieve your goals if the other side is making it difficult for you.
Oh, yes. Well, the fact that he's wearing a black shirt on top of his orange jumpsuit, that's defiance in a T-shirt, right? It's symbolizing control. It's saying, look,
yes, you're using so many words to say he's got aura.
I'm doing what I want to do still, and I'm in charge. But look, his wife, and since we're talking about ages, she's 69, and she is about to be arraigned. She's no shrinking violet. She was the head of Venezuela's Congress, what's Congress for them. She was Attorney General, and there are some serious allegations against her in this indictment.
Hassan, so how did America become the richest nation then? The f you talking about neocolonialism? The f I know is not as fruitful as it used to, but it's still, stocks are doing great. Don't BS and say it wasn't good for America. BS, it kept industries involved there. Mad America better. Maybe not as good to negate the worsening material conditions due to capitalism, but in general, it's good. Oh my God. Okay, third worldists, you're right. The war you must be waging is with the American proletariat, the labor aristocracy. Okay, yes. Let's not in the heart of empire, me. Okay, I shouldn't be trying to educate other Americans to snap out of this reality. You're right. I should be telling every single person. I should be actually maybe even fighting with fisticuffs my Amazon delivery driver, okay, when he shows up at my doorstep, because he also is participating in the labor aristocracy, in the extraction of imperial super profits. Thank you for your incredible adept analysis here. You actually figured it out. You dialed in. You figured it out. This is the most appropriate way that I should be conducting myself. Okay, it's another like Maoist third world is in an effort to find like moral consistency, unironically, basically turn into like anarchists and shitlips somehow. I don't know how. I don't know why. They just like lose sight of how to communicate with people. They lose sight of all of that, and they just become weirdos. It's also wrong. Like what the argument you're making is that like a regular dude that works at Starbucks gets a 401k and therefore they're also participating in the imperial super profits because their 401k is going to look better when the market's doing better. Is that unironically the argument that you're presenting here? Jesus Christ, dude. What an insane statement. We make jokes about people who think they have an ownership stake in the stock market all the time. Why would you think this is any different? Yes, Americans have been duped into believing that they also play a formative role. Like they also get benefits from all of the. They don't. The only benefit they get is that they're not literally staring on the other side of the barrel of the gun. That's it. That's the only benefit that the average American worker gets, okay, is that you are at least not under the boot, okay? In some instances, you're wearing the boot as a servant of empire, but you're not under the boot, and that's it. Like broadly, if we're talking about the American population, yes, your biggest benefit is that you don't live in the country that is being destroyed, dominated, used and abused, raped and pillaged. That's it. That's it. That's the biggest benefit you get. And it's a tremendous benefit if you are under the boot, right? If you're sitting under the boot and you're looking at Americans living in the heart of empire, you're like, oh my God, like these guys are living large. It's true. But I too am also living in the heart of empire. And my goal here is to try and educate people on what we do, what empire does, why it does the things that it does, and how it doesn't actually end up benefiting people at all.
Including the fact that she attended a meeting where she accepted hundreds of thousands of dollars in bribes to broker a meeting between a large-scale drug trafficker and, wait for it, the director of Venezuela's National Anti-Drug Office. Yes, they actually have one, apparently. Her nephews were recorded, presumably to DEA sources, and they said that they were, quote, at war.
Come on, man. You can't say that the benefit is not the whole point or pose it as negligible. Brother, I'm not a Filipino Maoist, okay? I'm an American citizen living in the United States of America. Shut up. Jesus Christ. I'm not talking to people that are already, I'm not talking to the Iraqi family member who lost his family to American imperialism. I'm talking to a person who probably did the imperialism, who probably has a cousin that went and did that, to make them realize what this looks like, okay? Shut up. Many of you are also like that. You're just LARPing. Many of you are not actually living under the crushing boot of American empire. You just read too many books, and now you LARP as though you are living under the crushing boot of American empire, or you are at least a morally consistent, intellectually honest diasporoid yourself, okay? Jesus Christ. God damn, every conversation, even when I'm in the process of making an anti-imperialist argument, motherfuckers have to argue with me on the aesthetics of the anti-imperialist argument. They're like, oh, you need to just like talk about how every American soldier is a terrorist that needs to be shot and killed. Why aren't you doing that? I don't know, because I'm not sane, okay? Shut the fuck up.
With the United States. And that's very helpful language, I think, for the government's case as they bring that, for sure. And those were her nephews. But interestingly, they indicated in this meeting that they were seeking to raise $20 million in drug proceeds to support a campaign by Celia for her re-election campaign.
I think you underestimate your role outside the U.S. You try to redeem Americans. All right, good luck. I hope I'm wrong and you can do it. But you're also awakening many people throughout the world to the horrors that USA commit, and that matters too. No, this is the exact same argument that we have whenever we talk about, like when I talk about transphobia, I'm not talking to trans people. They already experience transphobia, okay? They already know what that is. They live it every day. When I'm talking about, you know, anti-black, white supremacist racism, I'm not talking to black people. I'm talking to people who are in the margins, who might actually entertain that kind of ideal that I'm trying to pull off the ledge here, okay? And when I'm talking about American imperialism, I'm talking to mostly Westerners, okay? Mostly Westerners. I'm not talking to the people who are victims of American imperialism. The f do you mean? You already know what that looks like, okay? Jesus Christ, please stop. Why do you keep getting pissed at valid points? Because you want to know why? Because this argument is utterly unproductive and incredibly stupid, and it's just me getting one guy, maybe not one guy, but like 30 guys in this situation, and it makes us look like clowns because it is an infinitely easier argument to process if you just go, yeah, based, it's actually awesome. America's dicks are so mighty, it's actually awesome. We're going to get free oil. I'm combating against much more powerful, nefarious forces here when I'm actually conducting myself a certain way. Okay, and many of you don't know this. Many of you might be morally correct in your position, but you're being annoying, and it's impossible to actually penetrate people's collective consciousness when they've been duped into thinking that American empire is mighty and that's a good thing for them. When I got a bunch of people chirping in my goddamn ear being a nuisance. Okay, shut up, stop chirping.
Or National Assembly when she was running that. So it's quite a family operation that has been using the Venezuelan government as a front for this international drug operation for many years now.
So, you know, the most recent video that I remember where we saw anything coming from Maduro was in that moving car where he was saying, you know, come and get me, and, you know, he's not afraid of anything, that sort of thing. I'm paraphrasing. Some of it was salty. But I'm curious to know what's being seen in court today. Is that the individual who was anticipating being taken? They were trying to go into, you know, a locked room. They were trying to get away and hide in their protective room, and they couldn't outrun our U.S. military, he and his wife.
Yeah, that's right. And look, this is standard processes of justice that's happening right now. They're being arraigned. They're entering their pleas. They are, we're seeing who's representing them. And his wife, it seems like, is up next. The fact that
that's the other part of this equation. Like, I don't even know the f is Maduro's wife got to do with any of this. Like, they're like, yeah, his children and his wife were also trafficking cocaine. Everyone was trafficking cocaine, actually. They were doing the cocaine. They were boofing it. And they were doing it. And also they had guns. They had machine guns that they were going to traffic cocaine with.
He wants to read, apparently, the charges himself. I think you just said that out loud. I didn't see that in the notes, but that's quite interesting as well. He is, I think, like Martha was pointing out, you know, he is very much wanting to portray to the world, I am the president of Venezuela, I am in charge, and I'm not going down without a fight. Now, of course, because of the Noriega precedent and this being a very, I think, open and shut law enforcement case with the added benefit of defense.
Yeah. Remember when they were trying to say Maduro was trafficking fentanyl and they completely dropped fentanyl and now they're saying it's actually cocaine? What happened? I thought the argument was that Maduro was trafficking metric tons of fentanyl into the United States of America. And now they're not even doing that. Fentanyl is not even mentioned once in the 25-page indictment. Not once. What happened? I thought fentanyl was the great WMD. I thought Maduro was the one trafficking fentanyl. He loves trafficking fentanyl. This is like WMD that loves trafficking in the United States of America. They just dropped it. They're just like, it's cocaine, actually.
This is from a national security perspective. I don't really think he has much of a shot. But this is going to take some time, and it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out.
So it's interesting from our team, our producing team, and also Paul Morrow in the courthouse. The wife, Celia Flores, is dressed the same as Maduro. She confirms her identity. Her voice is weak or thin. She waives her charges being...
By the way, this is no different than like in the Roman Empire. They would parade the like heads of like tribes that they from inside of the city streets, like in a triumphant manner, to like get all the peasants and everybody else to like, yeah, triumph, like this, the Roman triumph, the spectacle of it all. They did the exact same thing with Maduro, with like the doors open and like all this, you know, the perp walk that they made him do, all this shit. It's just a way to say like, look how powerful we are. Like, look, you see that? That's the head of a state right there. And we just kidnapped him in the dead of the night like it was nothing, right? And I think maybe it works for some Americans. Maybe it makes some Americans who are utterly powerless and very insecure feel like they have some kind of power in their lives, right? They fall for the spectacle in the same way that like the Roman peasant did, I guess. I don't know. But ultimately what's happening here, what's taking place here is that this is a threat, okay? This is a threat to every other country. America is now saying, look, we can do this. We've always done this to countries that we already dominated. Like, that's why Panama is not the best example here. But basically they're saying like, you know, we can do this to any nation on the planet. If you don't abide by our needs, by our demands, this could happen to you. And what's crazy about it is that if the rest of the world realized what was going on and actually had some kind of backbone, they could apply an international standard. They could actually apply some pressure to America. They could put a dent in the American imperial armor, partially because they also stand to gain from the same systems, you know, endless third world extraction at the behest of their own capital owners. And they have been elected into positions of power to maintain the same exact system. They just don't want to press America at all. And in the absence of the rest of the world coming together and uniting against America, no one's going to be able to do shit.
To her, overall, Maduro comes off as defiant. The wife seems defeated and small. That's our team making these observations. And she says that she's pleading not guilty, quote unquote, completely innocent. So we are hearing from her at this point, Carrie.
Yes. Well, she's entering her plea. This is part of what you see at an arraignment. But again, she was a power player in Venezuela politics and government. And, you know, in the indictment, the government all...
What? Why every country combined still couldn't invade the U.S.? Okay, stop. That's such a stupid argument. America has nuclear arms, man. We're not talking about an actual invasion. This is like the same with Israel, okay? It's pressure. It's pressure points. It's destabilization. It's crippling the economy. Like, that's not... America has nukes. We're not talking about invading America. Also, I'm American. I live in America. I don't want America to be invaded, okay? Like, I'm saying that there is a much better way to go about this, but that requires collaboration with the rest of the international community. Okay, yes, L, I know, I'm very selfish. I'm very selfish because I don't want nuclear holocaust to take place, dude. What are you talking about? It's the same reason why I say I don't want Russia to be invaded either, okay? I'm not Russian. What are we talking about? Shut the up. You guys are so dumb. Oh, God.
Also alleges that both she and her husband maintained their own personal groups of state-sponsored gangs to facilitate and protect their drug trafficking operations. I mean, this is extensive, powerful stuff here, and she appears to be right there with Maduro all along. In fact, there's some local reporting that I was looking at earlier that has suggested along the way that she may be even more.
Let the goat speak on it.
I don't fully support Trump taking over Venezuela, but come on! People have suffered under Maduro forever. Getting him out is at least some good, right?
Was U.S. intervention good for Libya, Iraq, Afghanistan? Be real for a second.
But look, people are celebrating in Venezuela. If the
This is the only AI usage that I find to be appropriate.
Ayatollah got ousted in Iran, people would celebrate too.
No Venezuelan perspective will change U.S. foreign policy patterns. If every U.S.-led regime change caused more instability, worse living conditions, and long-term chaos, why would Venezuela magically be different?
Okay, but at least the economy will grow. Sounds like a win-win.
Grow for who? ExxonMobil? Chevron? Wall Street? What happens is simple. Maduro gets replaced by a Western-backed strongman who sells off oil and resources to U.S. corporations for pennies.
But that still helps rebuild, no?
No, that's extraction, not development. Trump literally said controlling oil reserves was a strategic...
Yeah, like, look at Africa, dude. Okay? Look at Africa. Oh, so much development took place, dude. What do you mean? No, we as America, we in the Western world, we do not want these places to actually develop, because if their material conditions improve, then we can't continue extracting the natural resources for pennies on the dollar. There is no real development taking place. The only development that will take place is logistical supply lines. Okay, that's it. That make the extraction easier. There is no real development that takes place. It doesn't translate to like better building standards or better homes and more buildings in general, or a robust infrastructure. The infrastructure only helps with the extraction. It's always logistics. Okay, look at India. It's not you get roads, okay, that you can't even use because you don't even have money to purchase a car or anything like that. But the only development that takes place in this process is development that does not improve the material conditions of the average person, but instead development that improves logistics, supply chains, makes it easier to extract the resources. You don't get to see a piece of that at all.
Interest. This isn't humanitarianism, it's corporate foreign policy.
So this wasn't done for the people?
The illegal act of kidnapping Maduro and claiming Venezuela does not benefit American citizens nor Venezuelans. It benefits rich oil corporations who do not have your best interest in mind. This ain't about fighting dictatorship or drugs. It's about expanding capital. Always has been. Follow for more.
I don't fully support
My goat, Comrade SpongeBob, Comrade SquarePants. Check the comments if you think you can take it. No, you have freed us. Oh, I wouldn't say freed, more like under new management. As a Venezuelan, and then it's Agartha Charlie Kirk. And then the no dictators card when a dictator is removed. Don't disrespect Patrick like that. He isn't that dumb. I do love me some this time it's different argumentation, but I think I've been a little bit too aggressive with people, and it probably doesn't look good for those who are just coming in, who are confused and trying to understand it. So I recognize that I probably should dial it back when I'm coming across as very harsh to people that go, what about the perspective of the Venezuelans? But like, I've just heard it so much. This has been my entire political commentary career where it's like, oh my God, dude, like, it's just, what do you say? What do you say? What do you do? Like, real regime change hasn't been tried yet. You don't understand. This time it's going to be good. This time it's going to be good. This time it's going to be good. It's not. It's not. And your perspective from the American foreign policy position doesn't matter. And it's not even like, it's not as though the American government is even presenting themselves as giving a shit about your humanity at all. That's what's so crazy. Trust me, bro. This time it's different, bro. Just one more regime change, bro. This time it'll work, bro. We get the oil, bro. Trust us. We'll be a win-win, bro. Previous attempts were not done well. We learned from them, bro. You know what's funny? Trump is saying that. The 2002 coup was more crazy because once they got into power, they disbanded the parliament, the Supreme Court, the Electoral Committee, the Attorney General, etc. Why has this not even been mentioned by anyone? Because that one was different, bro. This time is different, bro. Ironically enough, I think Trump wants to do regime change, but also does low-key recognize I hate to give him credit in any way, shape, or form, but I do think the reason why they don't want Machado and the reason why they're trying to work with the current administration does feel like they just understand how difficult of a process it is to just like literally send in the military and do the exact same thing Iraq style, right? Because like they know, no, it's not because Machado took his peace prize. That's the Wall Street Journal, Washington Post argument. I don't believe that. I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't believe that that's one reason, right? I'm sure Trump is so narcissistic that I'm sure that played a role in him, that probably pushed him over the edge, right? But the reality of the matter is there are still smart thinkers behind him. They're evil, but there are intelligent people in this process. Because if they were simply looking at this like as Iraq 2.0, instead of analyzing this from the perspective of a post-global war on terror administration, they would just do Iraq 2.0. They would just do shock and awe, all this. I'm not giving Trump credit. I'm giving the State Department more credit in still having some semblance of analysis here in enacting their cruel agendas. Okay? They're a little bit more rational than you guys think they are. And I think that they recognize that Maduro arming the out of the local population, okay, and the amount of influence that they still have over the military, right, led them to realize that they have to at least threaten the current administration by doing this to Maduro and then force them to play ball. Because as I said before, let's say they didn't just do this, but put Machado in power, right? They brought Machado in. There would be insane strife on the streets. Okay, everybody who is currently saying like, oh, but the Venezuelans are dancing, they're throwing parades. Would there be people that are excited that like the Chavistas are gone? Sure. Will there be Venezuelans who've been duped into thinking that Chavez is a bad guy? That attitude is done. The Bolivarian Revolution is over. All this stuff. Certainly, there would be some people, right? There's hogs in every country, and there's also some good reason to feel excited at the prospect of having or thinking that there will be new ownership over the country, right? Because if you have been protesting against this administration and your friends have been killed, then you're obviously not going to be happy about Maduro at all or his administration at all. That makes sense. So there will be people who will dupe themselves into believing that like this will be good for them. There will be people who have like real interest in revenge, right? However, Machado is a true believer and really believes Trump was bringing democracy. They needed someone realistic and cynical to work with. You are deluded, okay? No, Machado is not a true believer that thinks Trump is bringing democracy. What are you saying? Oh my God, it's so hard for me to be chill about this stuff, okay? No, she has been an active thorn on Chavez's side as well as Maduro's. She is a CIA asset, brother. What are you, or sister? What are you saying? She is no different than Juan Guaido. Is that the reason? Because she's such a firm and committed believer in real democracy in Venezuela that she was begging Israel for intervention to push America to the best of their ability? That's why she was like, oh, Israel didn't do a genocide. Israel's so awesome. We're going to put the Venezuelan embassy in Jerusalem. That's really how that is the number one concern, you think, for Venezuelans? The number one concern for Venezuelans, you think, is the privatization of all the oil extraction and also all the gold to sell off the Venezuelan coastline to like American hospitality? Is that what you think? Yeah, real believer in democracy. Come on, dude. She was demanding that they drop bombs over Caracas. It's ridiculous. Yeah, here she is with pro-democracy leader Bush. Unironically, in line of thought some Latin Americans believe, yes, you have to remember, even kind-hearted people can be duped into believing this kind of stuff. If propaganda didn't work, the American government would have spent billions of dollars pumping every airwave with this kind of narrative. Okay? That's it. It's so ridiculous. In any case, where was I before I was talking about up Hassan, honestly. Jail Maduro for life. Maduro rot in jail. Maduro will rot in jail and Latin America's happy. Y'all left is really defending a dictator. LMFAO. Venezuelans, I have been waiting for decades for this moment. Let's go. Venezuelans have been waiting for decades. Can y'all leftists be happy for Venezuelans? Holy shit. How much pain has Maduro caused to Venezuela? Enlighten me. Just be happy an asshole dictator is going to rot in jail. So you support the fatty dictator to stay in power? Shut Hassan, honestly. You're speaking out of your ass. We Latinos are happy the fatty is gone. I like that you're not even Venezuelan, by the way. Like he's like, no, we Latinos are happy. No, I'm going to unban this guy. I need to hear more from him. Okay. If you can comprehend how American hogs will look at this and go, nah, it's going to be awesome for us. We're going to get free oil. Then you can understand why there would be, you know, hogs in the global South as well that are just like primed. That are primed into thinking like, no, you don't understand. American intervention is good. Venezuelans have been partying all day where I live. Okay, brother. It doesn't seem like you live in Caracas regardless. And yes, I know. Of course, Venezuelans that fucking escaped the country the Venezuelans that left Venezuela didn't like Maduro. Yes, I know. This is not new information to me. You know who was actually celebrating the fall of Saddam and the invasion and intervention of the United States of America? Iraqis. There is a multitude of different reasons for why some people are celebrating this. There are also in the Spanish-speaking world, at least from what I've seen, there are people who are excited because they think they're going to ship the Venezuelans back to Venezuela now because they can't stand the Venezuelans living in diaspora because of how right-wing they are, it turns out. And there are literally people being like, no, okay, like, this is really up, but at least like the right-wing Venezuelans with like Spanish citizenship who are constantly yelling at our government will maybe go back to Venezuela. They won't! I'm letting you know, they will not! Okay, two different scenarios. Okay, you didn't respond to my question, but it's fine. I've seen a lot of people think this means they're going to send the Venezuelans out of America. Yeah, they're stupid. That's not going to happen. The point is, obviously, if this kind of propaganda didn't work to dupe people, they wouldn't be doing it. But there's a reason why the American government has spent billions of dollars, okay? Anyone that does not play ball with American interest will get destroyed. Anyone that even calls into question America's ambitions when America is nakedly ambitious and openly stating their desire here, which is the extraction of natural resources and things like that, and complete domination, complete colonial subservience that they demand from the Venezuelan population, you will get yelled at too. It's awesome. Completely cut.
Spain, Canada, Germany, as well as the UN Secretary General have all.
Dude, this is awesome. I love hearing from Keir Starmer on this stuff because, like, he is Mr. Chair, okay?
Said that the US has violated international law. Has the US violated international law?
Well, international law is really important. It's the framework, and it's for the US to set out its justifications for the actions that it's taken. But it is a complicated situation.
No, it is a violation of international law. What the are you talking about? It literally is. It straight up is. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's just, there is no like analysis here. It's just a straightforward violation of international law. Even Noriega was, okay? Even America's like abduction and like deposition of Noriega was a violation of international law. Like even Panama was. So whenever these guys try to, well, I don't know about international law. Like, come on, dude. Yeah, and what's worse is they're also trying to do this. Like they're also trying to do this with the Greenland thing. British minister cannot say the U.S. should not invade Greenland. What an ally Denmark has. Dude, it's so crazy because Trump is literally looking at this and salivating. He's like, I'm going to take Greenland. I'm going to take, dude, colonize France. You know what I mean? What can you say? You can't say anything. You can't do anything. Donald Trump's going to literally come over and be like, actually, you know what? It's not just Greenland. Denmark is mine too. What can you say? Nothing.
It remains a complicated situation.
So you're not going to say whether you think
the most important thing is stability and that peaceful transition to democracy. That's what matters to Venezuela above all else, and that was the position we took before the weekend. It's still our position
So
now.
you're not going to say whether you think they have or haven't, just to be clear?
I'm going to be clear that I believe in international law. I've long been an advocate for international law. I'm absolutely clear that is the framework that applies.
Okay.
Obviously, it'll be for the US to set out their justification in relation to the action that they have taken.
You don't want to call it out. France,
Dude, he's so brave. I don't think you guys understand the bravery necessary to be Keir Starmer, okay? The world is constantly awaiting what his next take is going to be. This guy moves the world, okay? He shocks the world every time he comes out with statements. Anyway, let's hear what the position is on not just Venezuela, because like this obviously has reverberations. This obviously has like impact on everything else. And one of the things that Trump has said is that he's going to do this to Cuba next. He might even do this to Mexico. He might do this to Colombia. But also, he's going to take Greenland. Let's take a look at how the Europeans are talking about Donald Trump eventually overtaking Greenland.
But allies matter. Allies influence, they pressure. I mean, let's look at Greenland, for example, right? We've had the Danish Prime Minister calling on the United States to stop the threats against a historically close ally and against another country and another people who have very clearly said they are not for sale. If Donald Trump's moves against Greenland or against, Denmark, is that a different matter?
Well,
Will the UK government condemn that?
First, I'll be really clear that allies do matter, which is why these careful diplomatic conversations behind the scenes are ongoing with the United States and with our European allies and Five Eyes partners. And we're not going to give a running commentary.
But what about Greenland?
When it comes to Greenland, Denmark and the United States, these are both NATO members. And I'm really proud that NATO has used discussion over division to ensure that these problems in the past
Can you at least just say Donald Trump should not, do the same in Greenland?
What I can say really clearly is I can't see this being any different to any previous conversations that need to be had between NATO members. And
I find it extraordinary that you can't just say flat out that Donald Trump needs to.
And I think the Venezuelan issue
intervene on Greenland.
The Venezuelan issue
I find that extraordinary.
is obviously different to.
Dude. I mean, if this was my job, I'd have a little bit of shame. Like if my job was to sit there and just eat America's as America literally puts his balls all over the table. Like I at some point I'd be like, this is too much. I can't do this. I can't stand doing this. What the my life? You have no dignity, man. You have no honor. You have no care or consideration for your fellow man. It's incredible. Because like with Greenland, at least, like white supremacy is still a very big motivating force in this calculation, right? Like Venezuelans are brown, they're far away, who cares, right? Gazans are brown, Israel is our ally, who cares, right? But Greenland, now of course there's indigenous people in Greenland, but like it's still under the white periphery. This is the difference between, Belgium and its colonial conquest, or even Germany and its African colonial initiatives versus colonizing and wholesale slaughtering white people, right? This was literally what caused people to go, hold on, Hitler, we were with you, right? But this is a bridge too far. What the f- are you doing? You're taking over other white countries. You can't be doing that. We have this established thing. Like, what's going on? And Donald Trump is literally doing the Adolf Hitler play of being like, no, I'm going to take all the white countries too. Nothing you can do about it. This is unironically the real appeasement. I know everybody goes like, oh, well, Adolf Hitler, you're doing appeasement against Adolf Hitler. Like, this is appeasement.
The Greenland issue, but that's for them to have those discussions. It's for NATO to have that solid anchor to ensure that there is no division here.
So you don't have an opinion on whether or not Donald Trump should go into Greenland?
Well, look, this isn't for me to sit here and talk about hypotheticals. We could go on forever.
This
like
is
that.
The Danish Prime Minister.
Dog, that's not a hypothetical. That's not. You might think that's a hypothetical. That is not a hypothetical. That's what Trump is saying. okay?
Minister is talking about this. She's asked the US to step the threats. This is not a hypothetical.
And that's why it's really important that allies stand firm and ensure that discussions... And that's because we're not giving a running commentary on that. There'll be more in the House today.
Come on, guys. We're different than Venezuela. Greenland's prime minister. We are not in the situation where we're thinking that a takeover of the country might happen overnight. Prime Minister Jens Frederik Nielsen said at a press conference in the capital, Nuuk, speaking via a translator, you cannot compare Greenland to Venezuela. We are a democratic country. You know what? You know what? When I hear stuff like that, I think to myself, bet. Okay? Bet. You kind of deserve it. Okay? I'm sorry. You kind of deserve it because you normalize this, you normalize the previous instance, and now it's going to happen to you. And guess what? You do actually deserve it. You're asking for it. Okay? I'm sorry. What the is this argument? What the is this argument? I mean, look, if the game is so disgusting, and if all of the other players are basically saying like, nah, it won't happen to us over and over again, as the domineering force is saying, no, it will happen to you. I mean, you might as well be begging for it, you know? You're just looking unconquered. Just looking sexy out there, you know? Unconquered. The are we doing? He's literally shown if he wants, he could take it. The EU doesn't even fight their own battles when they can travel across land. They can travel across land to Ukraine. No way. There are no Navy having asses will cross the Atlantic and be able to hold and invade Greenland too. Yeah, no, it's just not. Like, this kind of stuff is not supposed to happen with war, okay? Obviously, NATO is not going to disband so they can go and fight and defend Ukraine. Just like NATO is not going to disband to go and fight America. That's even dumber, right? These are both nuclear powers. One is Russia, a nuclear superpower, or a nuclear global power, and America, the nuclear superpower, right? The point is, you're supposed to apply diplomatic pressure, but they've completely given up on that. You're supposed to apply economic pressure. You're supposed to make a big fuss about it because this kind of stuff builds up. This kind of tension builds up. This kind of tension is exactly why even Donald Trump, at the end of the day, had to tell Israel, all right, we got to dial back this genocide a little bit because, you know, you're actually bag up for yourself. So the faster countries recognize that, and the faster they actually use any opportunity to make a big fuss and to try and actively entertain cutting ties with America in a meaningful fashion for one reason or the other, the more united the rest of the world is, the more peaceful this pressure campaign will be, and the faster we will depose of this kind of naked imperialist ambition. The problem is they think they'll benefit from it as well, or rather, the international consortium of capital owners are also the same owners of the European countries as well, because they're also liberal capitalist democracies in the same way that they own the United States of America. And therefore, in a way, I'm trying to entertain like the sovereignty argument, or maybe even like the nationalistic arguments as well. I think you're taking the quote out of context. No, the quote is not being taken out of context. He's saying, or she's saying, or he's saying, sorry, that Venezuela is undemocratic, and therefore, like, deposing of the leadership was the appropriate thing to do in that situation, as though democracy has anything to do with this process. They're saying it couldn't happen here, and it's very stupid. Literally, Bjork gave a better statement. Bjork supports independence for Greenland and New Post. Colonialism has repeatedly given me horror chills up my back, and the chance that my fellow Greenlanders might go from one cruel colonizer to another is too brutal to imagine. I wish all Greenlanders blessing in their fight for independence. Icelanders are extremely relieved that they managed to break from the Danish in 1944. We didn't choose our language. My children will be speaking Danish now. And I burst with sympathy for Greenlanders repeatedly, especially like when the case came up about the forced contraception where 4,500 girls as young as 12 got IUDs without their knowledge between 1966 and 1970. 4,500 girls as young as 12 were fitted. They are my age and younger, childless. And still today, the Danish are treating Greenlanders like they're second-class humans, removing children from their parents in 2025. Colonialism has repeatedly given me horror chills up my back, and the chance that my fellow Greenlanders might go from one cruel colonizer to another is too brutal to even imagine. Skunni I eldin, we say in Icelandic. Dear Greenlanders, declare independence. Sympathetic wishes from your neighbors. Warmthness, Bjork. Hey, I mean, Europe loves colonialism so much in the global south, they're going to get a chance to experience it. Yeah, I mean, hey, maybe that will help them realize what's afoot here, what's happening here. What is
El
this?
precio que tenemos que
The
pagar
price we
todos como
all have to pay as
venezolanos es nuestro
Venezuelans
petróleo, sí.
is our
Pero
oil,
quizá
yes.
vamos a estar mucho
Well, maybe
mejor.
we'll be much better
Ella-
off this way. You understand? This is Venezuelan in Uruguay.
¿Entiendes? Entonces,
So,
sí,
yeah,
ahora sí,
maybe
quizá
a lot of
va a
people are
morir
going to
mucha
die,
gente,
or
o
maybe
no.
not.
Ojalá que no.
I hope not.
Pero es el precio que hay
But
que
it's the
pagar.
price you have to pay.
Y a veces, por favor, muchas gracias.
And sometimes she goes, yes, please shut the up. Is this a real, I mean, I have no reason to believe that this is not a real translation, but Spanish speakers, what's going on here?
O no. Ojalá que no. Pero es el precio que hay que pagar. Y a veces, por favor.
Yeah. Are you dying? No. It's an exact translation. A pattern is emerging. Oh, yeah. I mean, there's also this element as well. It's jarring how racially segregated Venezuelan politics are. Seems as though all Gusanos are white Spaniards. But, I mean, there's an element of that, too, even though it's not always the case. But this is something that I always say, look, there's going to be a diversity of opinion in every country. The notion that any country is monolithic in their understanding and their approach to politics is idiotic. And unfortunately for you, in the Western world especially, you rarely ever get to hear from the voiceless, okay? You don't hear from the voiceless. You don't hear from the hungry mouths that are fed. You don't hear from the people who actually improved their lives dramatically under Chavez, right? And there obviously was a major movement that even democratically elected, like with legitimate votes, the likes of Maduro, who is nowhere near as good as Chavez was. Okay. And Chavez had issues too, obviously, in terms of figuring out a real exchange of power, like how this movement would continue. There were definitely issues there as well. But that's besides the point. We're not getting into that kind of stuff at all. None of this justifies intervention anyway. Right. But in so many of these circumstances, are you seriously still trying to say Chavez made things better for Venezuela? Yes, I am saying that. I will forever say that. That is objectively the truth. Okay? That is just the truth. And not only am I saying that, but I'm also on top of that saying that the people that despise it, right? The people, it's so much the truth that now Western media is unironically saying that while simultaneously using that as an effort to shit on Maduro. Like, I'm not alone in saying this, okay? This is objective reality. Oh my God, bro, you know nothing. It's insane. You are so dumb. I know. You guys would be so much better off if only the country was run in the same exact ways that the American government has been run. You're right. You're so right. I wish that you could continue extracting oil for profit for Exxon and Chevron. Fuck all of the people in your country. The Venezuelan voices that were saying this was awesome, right? The idea that like Chavistas was not a real movement is ridiculous. We're not even talking about Maduro at this point. We're talking about Chavez, okay? About the Chavez thing, bro, you have no idea what the you just stated. No, I do. I do know what I stated. I do. Venezuela was once the richest countries in the world till socialism took control. I mean, these guys know whose broadcast they're a part of, right? Like, I assume they're coming in here to just say, like, they're saying this just to, like, there's, like, you guys understand what's going on here, right? Like, this is just anti-communism across the board. It's just a fact. You're right. I think the country remaining illiterate with no rural hospitals, no rural infrastructure whatsoever was actually pretty awesome. You know, this was great. Brother, Chavez was so popular that when America did an initial coup that was like successful for the day, he was so popular that they had to give up on it. Okay. Like they literally had to immediately, they were like Chamber of Commerce, they were trying to disband all of the functions of the government. America automatically goes, we recognize the new government of Venezuela. And the people poured to the streets so aggressively that the CIA, which I would say was much more competent back then, had to give up on that endeavor. Not that they actually fully gave up on it. Give up. Venezuelans will soon learn their lesson. It's a lesson that nearly every Latin American country has learned. Unfortunately, people nowadays seem to be forgetting about it, though. I know. I guess that's what it is. If you don't want U.S. oil companies from the U.S. going in, does that mean you let Russia or China use it? Why give them that power? First of all, I don't even think these guys have an issue with American companies extracting the oil, for the record. It's America that has an issue with American companies extracting the oil until they're desperate for it. And that's precisely the reason why. That's precisely the reason why they let Chevron work in Venezuela. Okay? That's number one. Number two, I don't give a fuck whether it's Russia or China extracting the oil. What I care about is Venezuelans being able to survive. Venezuela is not suffering. Venezuela is not starving. And there's only one country that has actually done a pretty solid job at ensuring that Venezuelans continue to suffer and starve. And that is the country that carefully excised Venezuela from the global marketplace. And that's the United States of America. Okay? I can't believe in the last 2 days, the Mr. Donald Trump, my people yearn for freedom, has grown in magnitude and frequency. Okay, then why not broker a deal to make them strong? Wait, what do you mean? They were trying to do that. They just didn't want to do it under Maduro. They wanted to do it with their own conditions. They wanted to do it. My assessment on this is that America did not want to broker this deal with Maduro because they don't like the deal that they would get from Maduro. And they probably won't like the deal that they'll get from the current Venezuelan government either, which is precisely the reason why they wanted to threaten the current Venezuelan government. Because America is stuck between a rock and a hard place itself in its colonial ambition, right? Because they kind of recognize that in the post-global war on terror world, that this will be perhaps too costly, that might actually spread America's resources too thin in an effort to maintain a colonial occupation in Venezuela, okay? And that's the reason why they're trying to, that's the reason why Venezuela is not Iraq, brother. Explain to me what this means for the record, because I hear this a lot, and it's this very interesting perspective that I keep hearing. Why? Because, you know, the Iraqis are actually dumb sand people. Is that what it is? And Venezuelans are Catholic? Is that what it is? Because I do feel a lot, I do feel this argument kind of stems from a perspective like that. You know, two different situations. Okay, well, America's the one that's actually the common factor here, and I'm actually talking about American intervention here. In any case, yeah, worth reminding that people like Rumsfeld and Cheney were sold as the NBA NatSec team. Their idea was to streamline military bureaucracy and make it more efficient. They seriously believed you could occupy Iraq with less than 100,000 troops. Yeah. These are different operations. 2026 Venezuela is more like 1989 Panama, but Operation Iraqi Freedom was an incredibly well-planned invasion that just took a month. Though finding Saddam took longer, we had no plans on how to rebuild or occupy the country, though. The reality of the matter is our military policy in Iraq war was basically just giving Heart of Iron 4 players the keys of the most powerful army in the world. Everyone thought they could win if they just tried hard enough. Yeah, there is a pesky problem here that always rears its ugly head. The people's just need for emancipation. Okay? That's the problem. There is no world where the Trump administration, there's no world where the Trump administration puts a puppet state in charge of Venezuela, and then the Venezuelan population goes, okay, I guess we're now cattle for American ambition. You know? There's no shot. That is the reason why I said when Maduro was arming the entire population, giving them guns, to create like a self-defense force, right, amongst the population, I kept repeating, this is not for right now. This is not to like actually use the Venezuelan population to defend their own homeland, their own borders. This is for what comes next. Because if he is deposed, then it will be virtually impossible to deal with Venezuela. It was a contingency plan. It was to say, look, I can arm my population without fear that they will rise up against me. Me, number one. And number two, if you have an entire population armed to the teeth, that is going to make it much, much more difficult to engage in any sort of puppet exchange of power into a puppet leadership. They will consistently have to fight back against a now armed population that will be very frustrated. And also, even if they don't do that, then you actually bring in America into this military quagmire. And you actually recreate the same exact conditions that took place in Iraq. I think at the end of the day, a lot of this stems from Americans falsely believing that, like, the Iraqis were fighting back because they're all like jihadist, scary Muslims that are radical because they read the Quran, whereas Venezuelans won't do that. Ultimately, the point is the same. The goals for America is similar, right? Colonial domination, extraction of natural resources. But then also on top of that, also you're confusing soldiers with gang members with impunity pro-government. Brother, it doesn't matter, okay? They already used those weapons against Venezuelans. It wasn't to fight Americans. You're confusing soldiers with gang members with impunity pro-government. It doesn't matter. When the puppet leadership takes hold, they will still be a major threat. Do you understand? They will be a major threat. That's the point. They will make it impossible for Machado or whoever comes next to actually control the country. And you need to have control over the country if you want to extract its natural resources. You can't just simply build oil refineries and expect those oil refineries not to be overtaken by the people that you're calling gang members, okay? Your own countrymen, for the record. I cannot think of a more position in this regard. Yeah. If they're Hispanic, they're gang members. If they're Muslim, they're terrorists. That's the reason why Trump is trying to play ball with the exact same leadership structure that exists, but absent Maduro. Okay? That's what's going on here.
In general, but of course...
But you can't say...
Oh, Trump, the United States is going to run Venezuela. Darren Jones is asked if we are now in favor of colonialism.
Mr. Trump yesterday said that the United States would now run Venezuela until it decides to do otherwise. I think we used to have a name for that, colonialism. Are we now in favour of colonialism?
We're not in favour of colonialism, and we're not entirely clear yet what President Trump meant by those comments yesterday.
He's pretty clear. He says, we're in charge until we decide otherwise.
Sure, but it's for the Americans now and for Venezuela to set out what happens in the coming days. As the Prime Minister said yesterday, we shouldn't make assumptions or guess what might happen next in certain hypothetical scenarios.
We don't have to make any assumption. President Trump has been pretty clear. He said, we are going to run Venezuela. We will decide when we can stop running Venezuela and pass on power in his word was, judicious way. It's pretty clear. We must have a view on that, surely.
But we don't know the shape, the timescale, the details of that. And as I say, we don't know yet.
So colonialism is all right as long as it's in the right form?
No, that's not what I said. All I said is...
Well, it is what you said.
No, it's not what I said. What I said is we don't know the details yet.
Can you stop showing me how my country is? Bro, I'm serious. In the next decade or so, if America decided to literally do what they did to Venezuela to like Keir Starmer, you know, in the next couple of years, if America did to Maduro what they... if they did that to Keir Starmer, like, no one would say anything. I swear to God. I feel like people would just be like, well, you know, what are you going to do? I mean, Keir Starmer, he's a criminal is what the American government is saying. And if the American government is saying he's a criminal, Keir Starmer would be like, you know, I'm devastated by the charges, but I do believe that the law will prevail. And yes, maybe I have done some of the crimes that I've been accused of committing. And I will be a dutiful servant to the American emperor. I think there would be backlash purely because of a white Western country. Yeah, well, they're talking the same game about Venezuela as Greenland. So who knows? Maybe they won't do that. Actually, we don't know that yet.
What's happening in Venezuela, and it would be wrong for government ministers to try.
Yeah, and then China would come out and say America needs to uphold international law. It's really we're doing our monthly sternly worded letter campaign.
To make assumptions or to comment on hypotheticals about the future. We're engaging with our counterparts. Of course we are. Our embassy is working in Venezuela, but we should understand what's going to happen next before we comment. And that's what the public would expect of a grown-up professional government.
Yeah, Keir Starmer would be like, I'm monitoring the position from an American prison. Oh, it's so stupid. Alex Ward, this is the thing. Trump is no neocon. These aren't military actions for normative reasons like democracy. This is 19th century stuff. Gunboat diplomacy, tariffs, etc. The U.S. gets what it wants, and you don't. In this case, hopes for more oil, fewer drugs, and migrants, says the NatSec reporter at Wall Street Journal. Yes, neocons earnestly love democracy. That's why their primary project of the last 8 years has been codifying security arrangements with Gulf dictatorships. Yeah, famous lovers of democracy, the neocons. It's the same. It's just Donald Trump is not around with the propaganda. That's it. The only thing different in this situation is that Donald Trump is not playing around with the propaganda. He's just saying the quiet part out loud. That's it. That's the only difference. And it's so funny to me that like the American liberals are the ones who are trying to normalize it and sane wash him. Just say it's bad or good. That's it. I'm tired of this, okay? I'm tired of this. Just say you like what he's doing because you think America number one, okay? Every other country, not even number two. And let's move on. Like, in a way, I'll be honest, Asmongold and his audience, albeit stupid because they think this will benefit them, are more honest about this perspective because they're at least hearing what Trump is saying and they're repeating it. Liberals, on the other hand, in mainstream media are hearing what Trump is saying and consistently going, hold on. There's a separate, there's more nuance to this. There's got to be a separate reason. Oh, we should listen and learn from what the Venezuelans are saying or whatever. It's like Trump doesn't give a shit about the Venezuelans. You know that. You've covered it over and over again. Okay? Speaking of, what is this?
After waking up in a Brooklyn jail cell this morning, a limping Nicolas Maduro was driven to a helicopter and flown with his wife over the East River to a federal courtroom in Manhattan, surrounded by Drug Enforcement Agency officers 2 days after they were snatched from Caracas by US Special Forces in the dead of night. Thousands of miles away, Venezuela's interim leader, his ally and junior Delcy Rodriguez, was preparing to be officially sworn in as president. She may soon be at the helm, but make no bones, said Donald Trump, answering his own questions on Air Force One.
Don't ask me who's in charge because I'll give you an answer and it'll be very controversial.
What does that mean?
It means we're in charge.
Have you spoken with her?
We're in charge.
Earlier on Sunday, he told The Atlantic magazine that if Rodriguez doesn't do what's right, she's going to pay a very big price, probably bigger than Maduro. Her public riposte came on Instagram in a direct missive to the US president, saying, "Donald Trump, our peoples and our region deserve peace and dialogue, not war." But with the country under a naval blockade, surrounded by up to 20,000 US troops amassing since the summer, she'll be operating with a not-so-metaphorical gun to her head.
Good night. Happy New Year.
Maduro will appear in court this afternoon alongside his wife on charges of drug trafficking. His lawyers are expected to argue that under US and international law, he should, as a sovereign head of a foreign state...
I'm going to keep it $1.50 when people say, at Kaya, where is this on? That's funny. When people say this is spiritually Israeli, under different circumstances, I would agree with you. Like, and it's funny as a joke, but like, this is just American, and Israel is spiritually American, really. This is just how we do things, and this is how we've always done things. The difference, of course, is that because we are the ones doing the thing, and Israel is at least seen as a foreign nation, a lot of people have attributed to this kind of behavior to Israel now, but like, this is how we've always operated.
Be immune from prosecution. The Department of Justice is expected to argue instead that the US doesn't recognize him as such, following 2024's election described by international observers as fraudulent. The UN Security Council is today convening to discuss the situation in a meeting backed by Venezuelan allies Russia and China and requested by Colombia, itself in the verbal crosshairs on Air Force One.
Venezuela is very sick. Colombia is very sick too, run by a sick man who likes making cocaine and selling it to the United States. And he's not going to be doing it very long, let me tell you.
What does that mean? He's not going to be doing it very long.
He's not doing it very long. He has cocaine mills and cocaine
Adolf Hitler.
factories. He's not going to be doing it very long.
So there will be an operation by the U.S. and
it sounds good to me.
A threat of sorts to Colombia's left-leaning leader Gustavo Petro, whose term comes to an end anyway next year. Senator Lindsey Graham.
That's not going to stop Trump from prosecuting him if he sees fit. If anything, he doesn't even have like the protective cover, which doesn't really mean anything as we found out, of being the head of a foreign state.
Graham at the president's side told Cuba to watch out too, even if Trump said it didn't need any action because it was going down anyway. Trump's is an administration stacked with Latin America hawks, not least Secretary of State Marco Rubio, said to be the architect of US Venezuela policy. But there were words too from the US president on his hopes of annexing Greenland, the semi-autonomous Danish territory, comments Greenland's prime minister described as utterly unacceptable.
We need Greenland from a national security situation.
Cuba's next, Colombia's next, Mexico's next, Greenland is next. And everyone's like, come on, guys, he's just joking, okay? Come on, he's just joking, brother. It's like, has he been joking? Because I'm not laughing. I don't see the laughter.
situation. It's so strategic. Right now, Greenland is covered with Russian and Chinese ships all over the place. We need Greenland from the standpoint of national security, and Denmark is not going to be able to do it, I can tell you.
With the echoes of Saturday's strikes on Caracas still reverberating, and with the future governance of Venezuela yet to be defined and determined, one thing is clear about ongoing US intervention.
We're going to have big investments by the oil companies to bring back the infrastructure. And the oil companies are ready to go.
Venezuela holds the world's largest estimated oil reserves, most of it untapped. The price for peace then for its new president.
You think as the Roman Empire was falling, like the peasants were falling for the aura and hype moments? They're like, yeah, we actually took out another tribe here. Like, no, it really makes me feel like I'm playing a role here. Falling for the aura and hype moments. Yeah, the peasants did not get the news. It's true. Until they were parading the Gauls and the leaders, right? Like the tribal leaders and shit, through the main roads. Too busy dying from influenza, brother. Yes, that's my point. They were literally dying. They were dying. They couldn't. They barely had money, but they were like, I'm based in SQPR pilled. Like, nah, you don't understand. It's actually kind of dope. The armor goes hard. You know what I mean? They were like, listen, objectively, like, it's cool that we're just dominating these villages, right? Yeah, what do you think? We're dying from... We're about to die from Legionnaire's disease in the United States of America in 2026, and you're over here acting like it's any different, dude. We're bringing back old plagues with RFK Jr., okay?
Measured in barrels that will take billions and years to extract. Another costly, lengthy intervention, the likes of which Trump had once ruled out.
Yeah, the town crier was going around going, yeah, based, yes. We've done it again. It is so based. Fear not, commoner.